can't say this YouTube video is one that was on, you know, my dream YouTube videos to post one day, to be honest with you. It was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to start YouTube up again because I need a long form platform to talk to you guys, because I'm a yapper McGee and, you know, trying to condense things down into 15 seconds, you know, clickbait videos, I don't got it in me. Yes, I ordered a Frappuccino from Costa because I'm gonna need it for this video, okay? I thought I deserved a sweet treat. So you've obviously seen the title of this YouTube video, and I'm guessing you've clicked on this video because you've either gone through it, going through it, or maybe know someone that's going through it, or you're just curious, which is fine as well. I thought about making this video for a while, not for me, but for the past me when I was going through this, and I thought I was the only one on the planet. Obviously, I know that I'm not, but I didn't think that anyone understood how I felt, or I was very confused what was going on, and it was the scariest time of my life, to be honest with you. Maybe I would have liked to have listened to a YouTube video of a content creator that I know talking about her experience. So this is it, I guess. I wanted to be able to do this video without sobbing my eyes out, because no one wants to listen to, you know, nothingness, just which was me for a really long time. And I can't lie, it is still me, but today is like an okay day, so I thought I'm just gonna do it. If you're wondering, yes, I do have a toilet roll to hand, but I'm gonna try to not cry in this video because I don't want to do that. I want to be there for you and hold your hand and let you know that you're not on your own, and this is a fucking horrible situation to go through. Those of you over on my Instagram would have seen what happened. To be honest with you, and I don't know if anyone else who has been through it has experienced this, but I really struggled to say the word. Obviously it's a miscarriage that I've had, but even when I talk to my friends, I'm like, yeah, that thing that happened. Like I don't know what it is, but I really struggled to say that that happened to me. I don't know why that is, but I don't like to use the word. Maybe I'm still a bit in denial, or the word feels a bit too serious and I'm trying to detach myself from it. I don't know. So if I keep saying that thing, then that's why. I'm gonna try and be a big girl and say the word. So I'm gonna give you a little insight into like where this whole journey, this whole process began. And obviously it began with me and Lou deciding we want to have a baby. I honestly haven't been like crazy maternal my whole life, but there was a switch in me where I was just like, I need that right now. I don't know what it was, but it felt like a switch, and I was like, yeah, I 100% know that is for me and I want it now. So obviously me and Lou started the process. So before I actually had my miscarriage, me and Lou were trying for almost a year. Now I know the trying process is completely different for everyone, but for me, that felt like the longest, most hellish time of my life. I was like, there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with Lou. Like in my mind, it was like, you did it once and then you get pregnant. Because in school, they don't sort of tell you that, you know, on your best day, it's almost like a 20% chance, which is actually so small, and that's on your best day. But of course, I was surrounded by people that were one mum, accidents, and all them things. So I was like, okay, I'm a year in, and I think the biggest mistake that I made during that year is that I told no one. I had in my head that I wanted this magical surprise, and I thought if I tell people I'm trying, then it's going to take away that surprise. So essentially I suffered in silence. I didn't even tell my mum, and I was constantly finding myself in situations throughout that year that made me literally want to burst into tears. So I'd be in a group with all of my girls and all they'd be talking about is babies and how excited they are to be a mum, and I'd be like or they'd be like, when are you gonna have a baby? Like, when do you want, when? And like, obviously that's not their fault. That's something we talk about all the time as a friendship group because we're all very maternal and want that. But inside, I was like, I'm trying to. And it wasn't just my friends, it was also family. My mum would be like, would you hurry up and give me a grandchild? And I'd literally be like crying inside whenever she said that. And then it got to a point where I obviously come on my period again and I had an absolute mental breakdown. I was an absolute state, and Lou actually rang my mum and was like, can you come over? That evening is when we kind of explained everything to my mum, and I finally let go of this like thing, this big like secret that me and Lou were trying, that I don't know why I even kept a secret. And I can't tell you how much of a weight that lifted off my shoulders. So if you've been trying for a long time and you've been holding it in, trust me, that is not doing you any good. Even if you pick one friend, your mum or whatever, just tell them. And don't just go off my word, go off the proof, because that month when I told my mum and the weight lifted off my shoulders, the next month I got pregnant. And I couldn't believe it. I honestly think it was because the stress of like, is there something wrong with me? Is a year like far too long to be trying at my age? Like all of that stress was making me so tense. I think it was actually not allowing me to even probably get pregnant during that time. And the first month that I finally like released and let go and spoke to my mum about it and had a heart to heart, the next month I got pregnant. Don't get too caught up in wanting it to be a surprise like I did, because that actually worked not in my favour and made me absolutely miserable. The day I found out that I was pregnant, it was actually really weird. I was listening to Sophie and Jamie Lang's podcast, which I love, and she was talking about when she found out she was pregnant, and she was like, I just felt so like internally hot all the time. And as I was watching the podcast, I thought, it's so like internally hot lately. Like I was really like, oh my god, that's actually how I feel right now with everything she was saying. The reason I didn't sort of take it seriously is because I was having period pains, and it was the day my period was due, so I'd kind of mentally accepted, okay, my period's coming back on, because it really was like period pains. But something in me just thought, let me just torture myself and do a pregnancy test randomly, even though I felt like I was about to come on. And obviously when I did that pregnancy test, it was positive. And if you've ever had a positive pregnancy test for the first time, you all know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that the world just like stands still when that happens. Like I actually thought I was like going into like a psychotic episode or something, and that I was actually making it up, and I kept like having to hit myself. And yeah, it was that much of like I cannot believe what I'm seeing, because obviously I've been seeing a whole year of no's. I couldn't believe that the stick said something different. I probably don't even need to say that that was, yeah, one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life. Indescribable. Everything I thought that it would be, in all the sleepless nights of me dreaming about the day that I see a positive pregnancy test, it was everything and more of that feeling. I think something that made this whole situation even harder for me was really close to when I conceived. My family had a awful tragedy, and one of my little cousins, who was only 7 years old, tragically passed away. And obviously, due to how close these two events were, I had convinced myself that the reason why I got a positive pregnancy test was because he had maybe sent something down from wherever he was. And I think that's why I had such a deep bond with this pregnancy from the very beginning, because I had attached it so much to that situation. So obviously from the beginning I really like when I saw the positive pregnancy test, he was the first thing that popped into my mind. So I think from the beginning I had such a strong connection with that this pregnancy was for a reason, and it was connected to him somehow, or just felt like it was proof that he really was somewhere and made this happen. Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much on that because I just physically can't. I just wanted to give you an idea of the kind of deeper connection that was running through this kind of moment for me. It wasn't just, I'm pregnant. It was just a lot. It just felt like a lot more to me than that. So I know a lot of people decide to keep it in for the 12 weeks and not tell family and friends. I wasn't one of them people. I felt like I'd waited a whole year with this secret lingering over me, and to be honest, when I saw them double lines, all I wanted to do was unload to all of my close people. So obviously I told Lou, I told Lou's parents, my parents, the siblings, and then my closest girlfriends. And I know that everyone is completely individual, but I would urge you to tell someone, because in my opinion, after what's happened to me, I feel like this 12-week wait time is actually just a horrible, weird thing that's been invented so that if this thing happens to you, a miscarriage, then you can just brush it under the rug and get on with life. But that is not what you should be doing, because it's grief, and if there was any other grief happening to anyone else, you wouldn't be like, don't tell anyone about it. It's the only grief that's been like really normalised, that you just go to work, get on with your life and pretend it never happened because you didn't tell anyone anyway, so it meant nothing. So that's my opinion on the 12-week wait. But some people just do it to protect their own heart, because it's hard to live them experiences, and them experiences of like telling your friends and family and telling your partner are some of the most magical moments that I've ever had. And obviously when all of this happened, that's something I really struggled to get over, because I had such a fixation on my firsts, and the first time I tell my parents I'm pregnant, the first time I tell my sister and my brother, and the first time I tell Lou and my friends, and I was so fixated on them first, I just couldn't believe that I'd lost them first and that I'd never get them first back. But having said that, if I didn't have that support system around me when this happened, I don't even know, I can't even think what that would have been like. Everyone would have found out anyway, because I was a mess. So obviously nothing bad happened right away, and I was in the thick of the joy and the magic and all the conversations and all of the dreams, and I could not sleep at night. I can't even explain to you. I was struggling to sleep, and I was waking up at like 3 in the morning, and my first thought would just be pure excitement, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to sleep now. I hope that kind of reflects to you like just how excited I was. The symptoms that I had were I would feel sick, like I needed to eat, but then when I would eat, that would make me feel sick. So that was one big symptom that I had. I was like extremely bloated. Like I honestly looked like I was already 6 months pregnant during that time. I mean, I loved that because I was like, oh, I've got a bump already. Obviously, I knew that was just bloat. I wasn't mad at the bloat. And then it was just a normal morning. I woke up around 8 weeks and I went to the toilet and I had some blood. At the time, to be honest with you, I didn't know anything about miscarriages. All I knew was miscarriage and bleeding and all the things you've seen in movies or whatever of, you know, all this blood coming out, and I just had this massive wave come over me, like, this is not good. See, I did my research and I saw that, you know, it sometimes can be normal to have a bit of bleeding. So I was like, oh, maybe this is normal. But I had like this wave of pure like dread. From that point, I obviously went into pure panic mode, and bleeding continued and got heavier. So I ended up actually taking myself to A&E because I was so scared. To be honest, A&E was the most horrible experience ever. They left me sat there for hours and hours and hours and hours, and then I went into a room and they was like, there's nothing we can actually do. And I was like, well, you could have said that at the beginning and I wouldn't have sat here in, you know, absolute dreaded fear for like 5 hours straight. But I did get something out of it. They actually booked me into an early scan, which was in the next few days. The next few days of waiting for this scan, honestly, are an absolute blur. I've never hysterically cried for that long amount of time. I've never felt that way before, completely out of control. I just had this feeling that something was really wrong, and obviously every time I went to the toilet, which is frequently throughout the day, I'd be like, oh my god, what is this? What is that? What is... And it was just like, it actually makes me feel hot and panicked when I think about that time, because it was just like, I can't put into words how terrified I was during that time. It's actually a blur. I don't even know what I did with my days. I did nothing with my days, to be honest, but cry. Then the day of my scan came and I was literally shaking like a leaf in the appointment room. And I remember having a thought to myself, like, all these nights that I've dreamt about my first scan, like even before I got pregnant, and how magical that would be, and like filming it and Lou sitting there and seeing it for the first time, and I like couldn't believe that I was walking into a scan room and this is how I was feeling, and it was just pure dread. I was literally shaking like this. I just like, it was such a slap in the face that this was my experience, and how I really did not think that this would ever be what it would be like. There was no magic, there was no happiness, I was not excited, I was petrified, and so was Lou. We had this scan, and much to our shock at the time, everything actually seemed okay, everything was in the right place, everything was still there, and at that point she was sort of like, there's nothing to sort of say right now because everything looks like it's fine. I mentioned to the woman who was scanning me that I actually had a family holiday booked that I was meant to be going on, which was sort of lingering over me and I was sort of stressed about, and she was like, I'm just going to give you progesterone tablets which you insert inside you. I only give that to women who have had reoccurrent miscarriages, but she was kind of just giving it to me as a precaution in case it was going that way. But in that scan there was nothing to suggest that it was going that way, so she was sort of like, it's not going to hurt if we just put you on progesterone for a little bit. So obviously I came away from that scan thinking, oh, maybe I'm just working myself up here and maybe everything is going to be okay, and it's just maybe I'm one of them women where they just bleed. Like I was in so many forums I can't even explain to you. ChatGPT and me during that time were like trauma bonded. Like we've trauma bonded for life because of that time. I can't explain to you how much I was on my phone like continuously trying to find a story to make myself feel better, and I kind of convinced myself maybe I am that woman that bleeds a lot and that's just it and everything's going to be fine. And then that following week since leaving that scan was the worst week of my life. Miscarriages are not something that is spoken about, or you're not taught about it in school. You're not, you know, there's no education around this subject. So I felt like something was going on with my body and I had no understanding on what was going on. I was petrified. I couldn't sleep. I was crying every single day. I don't know why, but I was expecting, like, if I am going to have a miscarriage, it would be this thing where like it'd be like falling out of me and I'd be ringing 999 and I'd be in an ambulance. I didn't even know if miscarriages meant you had to be like rushed to hospital, or like honestly, like there is no information about this topic, and it baffles me that this happens to 1 in 4 women. Yeah, you've probably guessed, obviously that week the bleeding carried on, and during this week it wasn't just bleeding, it was pain, and I can't describe to you the pain, but it was, at times I was like, this like can't actually be normal that I'm just sitting at home and feeling this pain, to the point where my legs felt like they were like vibrating with pain. The next part I find still really hard to talk about. During that week I was in the shower and I got a pain I can't even describe, but I felt like my skin was like splitting apart. It didn't last very long, but it was the most pain I've ever felt in my stomach. Not long after that, something happened where I just knew that it was over. Obviously there was still a small part of me that thought maybe this is just me not knowing anything about pregnancy, and maybe all these weird things do happen and it is normal and common. After that experience I rung up the scan place and I said, you need to give me another scan, and I explained what happened, and this was actually the day before I was meant to be going on holiday. They managed to book me in for a scan, so this is the hard bit. I thought I'd be able to do this without crying. Am I stupid? I really thought that I would just make this lighthearted. That wait for my scan, can't even put into words the pain that I was feeling emotionally. I've never felt like that in my life. We went for the scan and the scanner just stopped and then held my hand and essentially just said, I'm really sorry, but there's just nothing in there anymore. I find it hard to put into words, but the heartbreak feeling that I had was I can't put it into words. It was just, could not believe what I was hearing. I just couldn't believe that it was over. I couldn't believe that this thing that I'd wanted for so long, and this thing that I'd told everyone about, was just over, and I was just gonna have to go back to normal life, and it was just like it never even had happened. I just couldn't believe that after all that time trying, after thinking there was my cousin sending something down for me and all of these things, my mind couldn't compute that it was gone. If you're watching this and you've had a miscarriage, something you might relate to was that I felt embarrassed. I'm not sure why, but I had felt embarrassed that I had like bought everyone these gifts to say that I was pregnant and done all these things and filmed all these videos of people's reaction, and it was just over, and I had to just go and tell everyone like, oh yeah, you know, it's over. And I know now that there's nothing to be embarrassed about. I was just excited and wanted to tell my friends and family. But I think it's because I felt like a failure that this had happened. Yeah, I don't know. One thing I will say is the woman that scanned me was the loveliest, most like loving, motherly woman I've ever met. I was sobbing and she was cuddling me so tightly, and she said to me, the one thing that I want you to do is I want you to go on that holiday tomorrow. She was like, you've been through so much, you deserve to go away with your family, don't sit at home on your own after this. And she said it was safe for me to go. Obviously I was like, I'm not going. And then she said she was going to ring me, and she essentially was like, you better be on holiday when I call you in a few days. I'm going to put my glasses back on because I feel like I look like a maniac. She did ask me in the moments after if I wanted to speak to someone, but at that point I remember just saying, I need my mum, I just need my mum, and I just ran out essentially. And to be honest, from then I actually barely remember anything. I don't even remember the car journey to my mum's from the scanning unit. I don't remember what I said to my mum and dad. I don't remember anything, to be honest. No one would actually know it from my Instagram because I pretty much didn't take a single photo, and the whole holiday was a complete blur to me. But I did end up going on the holiday with my family because I wanted to be with them, and there was no way they were going to let me not go, and there was no way I was going to let them not go. So, but looking back, I think what a privilege that happened, and I had to get up the next morning, get on a flight and go to my favourite place in the world, and I just sat by the beach and sat by the pool and read books. I remember it was about 3 days into my holiday and I actually got a call from the hospital congratulating me on my pregnancy and telling me what to expect from my 12-week scan. Stupidly, it was probably my fault because I absolutely froze on the phone and I didn't say anything. I couldn't say the word of what had happened, so I just let her finish. And at the end of it, I think I was like, oh, I'm not gonna need this appointment anymore. And she was like, oh, sorry. Such a bad day. I still look back and I can't believe that I received that phone call 3 days after I had a miscarriage. Like, it actually is quite baffling to me. And I was pretty much in pieces for weeks. I felt ashamed, I felt embarrassed, I felt like I had jinxed it by telling people, I felt like I'd let Lou down, I felt like this one thing that my body was designed to do and was meant to do, I failed at, and look at all these other women around me that didn't fail at it. I felt a lot of things in them beginning few weeks. One of them was I felt so sad of the thought that I'm never going to have that innocent joy again that I had when I first saw that positive pregnancy test and didn't think that anything could go wrong, because I know now, being a realist, that I'm probably not going to have the same experience the second time. It's probably going to be scary and not filled with joy like the first bit was for me the first time. And I found that really hard to accept. I know that on a biological level that pregnancy was obviously not right for me for some reason. But I think when people tell you, you know, it wasn't meant to be, it's really hard to accept that, because for me, it was meant to be, and that was the right time, and I'd been trying for a flipping year. So yeah, I did want it, and it was the right time for me. See, having a miscarriage for me made me feel like a child again who has desperately wanted a teddy bear and given it, and then someone's come along and ripped it from their hands, and that absolute breakdown feeling that the kid has is how I felt. I felt like someone had ripped my dreams from my hands, and on top of it also made me feel like an absolute failure and like it was my fault. And if you're watching this and you've had a miscarriage, or perhaps are in the middle of something going on, you'll know firsthand that the things that people say to you do not help. You know, oh, you can try again, it wasn't meant to be, at least it was early. All of these comments, they're said to make you feel better, but they just do nothing for you. And nobody knows like how long you've been trying prior to that. It's not just, oh, I surprise found out I was pregnant, and there was no sort of longing for a whole year behind it. It was like, it was more than that. And obviously, since what's happened to me, I've done so much research into miscarriages, and I've spoken to so many women, and there's so many women in my comments that I feel like it's opened my eyes to this issue and this thing that happens to women. And it is unbelievable how common this is, and it is also unbelievable how painful it is, and it's also unbelievable how we're just expected to just move on and get on with life. This is a really hard story for me to tell, and I feel like I've been sat here so long that it's actually got dark the other side of the window and now I'm dark. And I know to some people it might be oversharing, but I think it's so important that content creators or people that have been through this share their story, because this happens to 1 in 4 women. 1 in 4. And you're telling me that some of them women keep this to themselves and they just go to work the next day. You are stronger than me, love, if you done that, because I was in absolute pieces. I know that there is probably no difference in the pain that we felt. I know whatever I felt, you probably felt as well. And that absolutely shatters my heart. Don't ever let the 12-week wait make you feel like your loss is insignificant, because it's not. It's something you've longed for and got, and you've had all of them hopes and dreams flood in. You're picturing your life, your future, you're talking about names, you're talking about nurseries, and then suddenly it's gone. It's an awful, awful thing to go through, and I wish with all of my heart that this never happened to me. But I've been desperately trying to find a reason as to why this happened, and if my reason is to speak about it and to let people know that they're not alone, I'm happy with that being my reason. Women's pain and women's suffering is never taken seriously, and this is just another avenue to that. Don't ever feel like this is a grief that you've just got to brush under the carpet and not tell anyone and keep to yourself, deal with yourself. Don't ever feel like that, because you deserve to have a minute to feel the pain that is having a miscarriage, because believe me, been there, done that. Never want to be there again, never want to do that again, because it was the worst time of my life. And I'm acting like I'm through it. I'm not. I'm still currently in the worst time of my life, but I can talk about it better now. Probably doesn't seem like it because I was sobbing earlier, but I think I'm always going to cry when I talk about it, to be honest. There are a lot of complex feelings that come with having a miscarriage, and I'm very lucky that I have a therapist that I talk to every other week and I can deep all of my feelings. But for some people, they don't have that. Even if you're watching this and it's just because you know of someone or a friend who's going through a miscarriage or had a miscarriage, I'm telling you now, they will need a hug and they will need support, because it is soul crushing beyond belief. I hope that this video has given you some sort of comfort, and we're virtually, you know, holding hands right now. You are not alone in this. You are absolutely valid to feel devastated about this, no matter how many weeks you were. And I hope that there is a rainbow making its way to whoever needs it. I think that's everything I have the energy to say today. Knowing me, I'll watch this all back and I'll never post it. I hope I do, because I wish that I could have watched a video like this when I was going through it. Barely drunk any of this. Love you all so much, and I'm really sorry it's literally gone from day to night during this video. It's been a long one. If you need somewhere to vent or someone to talk to, my comments can be that place for you. Did that rhyme? Did that actually rhyme? Okay, I'm actually gonna go now. Love you guys.